Between January 1st and June 30th, I spent 43,020 minutes going after my 2024 goals. That's 717 hours, which breaks down to working 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, for 18 weeks straight. No breaks. The three main goals that I listed in my 2024 most ambitious goals yet video were writing goals, social media goals, and Korean language learning goals. I then broke those goals down into 8 daily tasks, and here are those tasks as well as how I spent those hours. 250 hours on novel writing, 110 hours and 30 minutes on academic writing, 100 hours reading novels, 38 hours and 15 minutes reading academic text, 38 hours and 45 minutes writing my social media scripts, 105 hours and 35 minutes editing videos for social media, 63 hours and 55 minutes of self-study Korean learning, and 10 hours of Korean language learning class. Of course, during the semester, my time ebbed and flowed, so this is the breakdown of what those hours looked like per week. I started off the year strong, but once the semester started, it was difficult keeping up with teaching alongside all of my daily tasks. The first week of the semester was January 15th through the 21st, so that was the beginning of the dip. In early February, my department was seeking a new faculty hire, and I was on the hiring committee, so I had a ton of service obligations. So, of course, it impacted the amount of hours that I could spend on my tasks. April 1st through 7th was spring break, and that ended up being my most productive week with a total of 40 hours. And my least productive week was May 13th through the 19th. And that was the last week of semester and grades were due. So of course I was spending a lot of time on grading. And that week I was only able to accomplish 14 hours and 15 minutes of work. The following 3 weeks I was off on my summer research travel, so my hours were minimal. But since then, I have made a comeback, and you can see that during the last week of June, I accumulated 38 hours and 45 minutes towards my goals. When I organize these hours according to my 2024 goals, I've spent a total of 399 hours and 15 minutes writing, 105 hours and 35 minutes editing videos, 73 hours and 55 minutes studying Korean, and 138 hours and 15 minutes reading. It's really validating for me to see just how much time I spend writing, whether that's for my creative work, social media work, or my academic writing. It just goes to show that I do always put my writing first. Now let's talk about what I was able to accomplish during those hours. The original plan for this year was to draft 3 novels and outline 2. And I don't know what I was thinking. So during the first quarter of the year, I was working on 3 novels simultaneously. A magical realism middle grade novel, a YA romance, and an adult romance. I stopped working on the middle grade novel and the adult romance at the end of March because I could not keep up with the amount of storytelling and character building across all 3 books. I did start making notes for books 2 and books 3 for the YA romance series. However, I haven't officially started drafting those outlines yet. I'm waiting to have a full edited draft of book 1 before moving on to books 2 and 3. Since letting go of the middle grade novel and the adult romance, I've spent a total of 131 hours of those 250 hours solely working on the YA romance. Project Soul currently sits at 56,634 words. And thankfully, I am still on track to have a completed first draft of Project Soul by the end of this year. Even though I did stop working on the 2 novels, in the adult romance, I got to 29,702 words. And then in the magical realism middle grade novel, I got to 31,091 words, which isn't bad. I plan on returning to those 2 novels once I procure an agent for Project Soul, which is the novel I plan on querying with first. More to come on that in later videos. Now, regarding my academic writing, I must say that I don't count the hours that I spend researching, nor do I count the hours I spend presenting. I only count the hours that I've been writing, otherwise this number would be astronomical. So those 110 hours and 30 minutes of academic writing include a keynote speech about my research, 2 academic book reviews, a conference session abstract, editing a book proposal, drafting a second book proposal, and drafting 3 articles. Across these 9 pieces of writing, I've written 18,503 words. As for those 3 articles, since they are still my top priority for this year, I'm going to quickly talk about them. The first article currently sits at 5,944 words. However, my goal was to have 5,000 written by the end of May, which I accomplished. The journal maximum is 6,500 words, so I am still on track to have a completed draft of this article by the end of the summer. And then I will go into revisions this fall and then submit a final draft of the manuscript at the end of this year. My second article currently sits at 1,457 words. I am 1,100 words behind schedule, but I had to read 7 books in order to write this article. So I'm okay with being a little bit behind on the writing because of how much time I had to spend reading. Thankfully, I'm still projected to have a final draft of this article by the end of this year. I'll then begin revisions on it next year for an early 2025 spring submission. Regarding the third article, I did present a first draft of it at the Association for Asian American Studies conference this past April. My goal was to write an 1,800-word conference paper, and I did that. I do think the topic worked well as a conference paper. However, I no longer want to pursue it as an article, at least not at this moment, even though I had to read 8 novels in order to begin constructing this argument. So that article is on hold for now. This fall, I'm going to start writing a new article in hopes of presenting a first draft of it at a conference this November. I feel much more attached to this new topic and want to see my argument through. So the plan is to start drafting the conference paper in September, present in November, and then extend it into a full article over winter break. So then I'll have my revisions for early 2025 and then hopefully submit in the spring of 2025. Thankfully, I'm still on target to have all 3 articles drafted by the end of this year. As for my academic book projects, I am feverishly working on the first draft of book 1. I do plan on creating separate videos about the whole academic monograph writing process, so stay tuned for that. So I did draft my reading list. I am still editing my book proposal. I'm no longer writing a preface, and I have started writing the intro and chapter 1. So for the rest of the year, I'm just going to be working on the introduction and finishing this next draft of the book proposal. And I'm going to be editing some of these goals now that I know what I'm able to accomplish in the next 6 months between July and December. So regarding my second academic book project on Korean children's literature, I've decided to put that book project on hold for now so that I can write a few articles first. It was actually while drafting the book proposal that I came up with 2 articles that I'm much more invested in at the moment. So if there's enough momentum after drafting these 2 articles, then I'll consider if I have enough research material and a strong enough argument to support writing an entire book. And I will be adding those 2 articles to my 2025 goals list. So when it comes to YouTube, I wanted to release 2 videos a month in hopes of reaching 1,000 subscribers. I've only released 6 videos, which essentially is a video a month. And I've gained 186 subscribers since January. Thank you all who have subscribed and are watching my videos. Secretly, one of my sub goals was to have at least one of my videos reach 1,000 views, and you were able to help me accomplish that. My video on American Girl has received so much love. And so thank you for watching that video and for helping me reach one of my sub goals. I still need 705 subscribers in order to meet that 1,000 subscriber goal by the end of this year, but I'm optimistic. All it takes is one video, right? For Instagram, I wanted to post 4 times a week in hopes of gaining 500 followers. I've posted 66 times, and that's an average of 2.5 times a week, and I've gained 59 followers, but that number is actually faulty. Because I teach a class on social media, my students end up having to follow me during the course of the semester. But judging that there are about 20 students in the class, I would say about 39 of those 59 followers were organic followers. So thank you to all of you who are also following me on Instagram. I currently have 250 followers, so I am halfway to 500 followers, which, because I'm optimistic, I think is possible to get by the end of this year. According to my calculations, it takes me about 14 hours to script and edit YouTube videos, and that does not include filming. And then it takes me about 20 minutes on average to create a post for Instagram. Just good information to know. As a part of my research, and just because I am obsessed with children and adolescent literature, I spend a ton of time reading mostly middle grade and young adult novels. And of course, I always end up reading a ton of picture books as well. This year, I've read 16 novels and 1 memoir so far. I do plan on doing a mid-year wrap-up of everything I've read, so also stay tuned for that video. When I divide the amount of novels I've read by the amount of hours I spent reading, it takes me about 5.88, or let's just say 6 hours, to read through one novel. Again, just good information for me to know. Since January, I've read 4 academic books and a handful of articles and book chapters. I'm currently reading or rereading Shine, The Visual Economy of Light in African Diasporic Aesthetic Practice by Krista Thompson. I haven't read it since grad school, so I'm actually really enjoying reading it all over again. And if I do my math correctly, it takes me 6.5 hours to read an academic monograph. Again, good information. So lastly, there's Korean. I wanted to spend 2.5 hours self-studying Korean during the week and then meeting with my Korean tutor every other week for an hour per session. My hope was to develop an elementary/A1 proficiency in Korean by the end of this year. I met with my tutor every other week for an hour from the first week of January until the first week of May. Since I was traveling most of May and June, I put my lessons on pause, but have since resumed in July. I did record myself reading Goodnight Moon in Korean in January, so it's actually really great to have something that will allow me to see my progress by the end of this year. When my self-study hours and my Korean tutor hours are tallied up, I've spent on average 2.88 hours learning Korean a day. Well, Monday through Friday. That means I have met my Korean language learning goal. And I'm on task to complete another 72-ish hours by the end of this year. Okay, so according to the internet, it takes 90 to 100 hours of studying to be considered an A1 learner. That means that by the end of this year, I will have reached and actually surpassed the A1 learner benchmark. I do plan on taking the TOPIK exam, which is the Korean language learning exam, but I want to have a conversation with my tutor at the end of this year to see when she thinks that I should start preparing to take the TOPIK. Okay, so that's it. That's all of my goal recap for January to June. I look forward to completing the rest of my goals, and you can expect an update come January. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.